Hello there, Craig.
Welcome to the club. Hello.
Hey, fancy
Um,
seeing you here.
yeah, I've never seen you around these parts.
Still expect
Come
my
here
hair.
often. Ah,
Yeah, I do.
really? Uh,
hmm
Can you tell me more about yourself? Can you tell the listeners more about yourself?
Yes. I'm Ulysses Duckler.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a TTRPG creator and current medical resident, and also engaged to wonderful Bianca
Mm.
over here.
Hey, welcome to the club. Our first doctor guest.
Your first doctorate guest.
Yeah, wow. How are
I mean,
you
you've had so many
doing?
furry guests
Uh,
on, it's only a matter of time,
Yeah, the
right?
stem furries. Indeed,
The stem
indeed.
furries. We're real. We're real.
Where are the furries in fashion? I want to ask.
You gotta find that out.
Where are you? I'm the only one known. Where are you guys?
If you're a furry and also in fashion, uh, please respond. Shout out in the comments.
Yes, yes. We need more furries in all the fields. And we are here today to talk about your OCs, the doctorate OCs. What
Mhm.
OCs does a doctor have? You know?
Many, surprisingly. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
you believe
Don't
that you can
you?
just go to your doctor, your regular doctor you see for
Mhm.
checkups and any concerns you have, and there's a mess of OCs just swimming inside their head too.
Yeah, they have
Wild.
blorbos of their own.
Yeah, Blorbo's
Yeah,
their own. In fact, every person you meet has a Blorbo of their own within them somewhere.
yeah. And now we're here to learn about your earliest original characters first.
Just the other day, I was even talking with some of the nurses I work with about. Um, I don't think you consider these Blorbos, but we were talking about like stuffed animals we had as
Hmm,
kids, like really young
I see.
kids, and
And
like
you
those
made
sort of
like
like
names,
comfort toys.
characters.
Yeah, like people
Mm,
talking about their blankets and their favorite stuffed animals.
I think that
Which
definitely counts.
have I told you? Does that count as a Blorbo? I don't know if it does. It's
I
not
think
fully developed yet to really be a character, though.
I think it depends on the age. Like I think as a child, like that counts as your blorbo.
Yeah, I guess it's like a child's Blorbo. I mean, I was thinking of some of mine, but I couldn't tell you anything about their character or their personality.
Well, do you remember the earliest blorbo with a personality that you
Yes, that
have?
is what we would be discussing. Yes, I
Discuss?
do. Off, go off, King.
Yeah,
Okay.
go off, King.
Okay. So this Blorbo comes from one of the earliest story ideas I ever had as a kid.
Wait, how old are you?
Uh, it's really hard to gauge.
Rough estimate,
I
like
recently,
7?
so I recently checked when I last saved the document that saved those like story ideas, and I think I was around 15 when I did that, but that's when I last saved it. So it might
Mm-hmm.
have been more like 10 or 12 when I really started to develop this idea.
Okay, okay.
That's what I'd get at. And it continued to develop.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
What is this blorbo's name?
well, hold on. I have to tell you about that idea first before I can get to the Blorbo
Okay,
within.
we're setting
You
the
know,
stage. Okay.
you're no stranger to Blorbos who exist within the context in which they're made,
Yeah,
correct?
maybe they fell out of a coconut tree.
Yeah, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so uh, this was really, again, bear with me. I was like 10. Silly, silly story idea, but in this story
Mm-hmm.
idea, there's kind of people can represent uh, human concepts and have the associated powers. So there is like a
Mm-hmm.
person who represents the four elements, and they have control
Mm-hmm.
over those powers. And there is someone for elements of like human emotions, for elements of different animal species, for different weather phenomenon, for different molecular forces. Each of those things, each of those concepts that humans recognize is also represented by a person who has power over that field. And
Mm-hmm.
why is things like that? I don't know. But they're cool and they have powers and they meet in a big council room to sort of keep the balance of humanity, sort of to keep human thought in check. I guess the idea is that humans can sort of will these concepts into existence, and so they have to be like monitored and controlled because if one of these people got out and started causing chaos, that'd be a big problem, right?
I see the vision.
At the same time, similar to like the idea from Chainsaw Man, this was a long time before Chainsaw Man. Like the people with these powers is their strength correlates to how much value people place in these concepts. So,
Mm,
like the more people fear or value these things, the more powerful these individuals' powers become.
that's pretty deep.
Not that
Like
deep.
as
It's
a
certainly not that deep. I feel like it
because
overlaps with a lot of other story concepts in many other media. Though I guess at the time I couldn't really
okay,
think of anything that it particularly pins on.
you are the pioneer, maybe.
Eh,
Maybe.
I don't know. Still, the idea of like people representing concepts is not especially new, and I think almost kind of regressive in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look back on it now, that whole thing I don't really like. But it is what it is. It is a story idea I had.
So you're calling
Mm.
Ants Kirby Blorbo Darkness regressive.
I have my
Or
own
darkness, poor
in
darkness.
this story setup I have. There was my own mini Blorbo, not like a very side character who did represent, yes, the concept of darkness. Yes,
Amazing.
yeah.
Okay.
Didn't really have much of a character to them. Anyway, the main Blorbo that I focused around this story concept was um, the character had the concept of fire, and
Classic,
that was
classic.
kind of just their name. I didn't really
Fire.
have a better name for them. I guess my thought was that in this story concept, characters' true names were important to them because there could be power wielded over them if they revealed their true names, especially if they kind of revealed their human identity. Then outside of the sort of safe space where they all met, they could be tracked down and battled.
Mm-hmm.
Because if your concept is too close to someone else, you can fight them and absorb theirs into yours. So like I think of a good smoke could fight with fire and sort of absorb one of those concepts together, like
Mm,
reduced redundancy, basically.
okay. You have the whole
Yeah,
system then.
yeah.
Like
I mean, I was a little kid. Of course, the first thing I came up with was like a power scaling system.
mm,
Uh,
okay. Tell me more
um,
about fire.
yeah. So Fire was not supposed to be the main character, because I was kind of like I don't know, shonen brained, I guess, and I thought like, oh, it'd be more suitable if there was like a teenage main character, and they're the focus of everything, and it revolves around them trying to like keep these powers under wraps while they go through high school, and of course, like there's other people, you know, very rare chance, but of course, there's other people who are one of these individuals who is in the high school with them, and then they're exposed and they have to fight them and they have to like team up with them or figure out stuff with them. Yeah, lots of plot points that went on with them, and they were individual. Their individual power was force. So like stopping objects in motion or accelerating things. Actually, I guess that's acceleration. Anyway, it's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of concepts for like powering up in different aspects. And in this idea, Fire was like their mentor, like one of the first people they meet when they meet all the other sort of concepts. And Fire mentors them to control their powers,
Mm.
but they're like a side character. Meanwhile, Fire's off fighting like way bigger battles um, against like fundamental elements.
So,
Um,
Fire is not the main character. Fire
no,
is the
but
Blorbo, but there's a
honestly,
teenage character.
like I built everything around that, or everything around the concept of the Fire character. So
Is
in truth,
Fire
in truth, sometimes the shonen protagonist exists only to have one of the side characters appear, I guess.
like they make these side characters shine, even though
Yeah,
that's not really what they're really
yeah.
supposed. Is how old is Fire? Is Fire an old man? I have to ask.
So one of the uh, one of like the twists that would be revealed is that they're actually not a person. Um, their individual who had control of those powers died, and they're just a suit of armor that holds the
Oh, that's
skeleton, that
fire.
holds the
Oh my
still
god.
burning skeleton of fire inside them. And the person or the individual now is just this like living suit of armor that's been sort of imbued by fire's dying passions. I guess they're not technically dead, but they're pretty much like comatose dead. Like they're not coming back, but they're alive enough to continue to power this suit of armor, but they're not alive enough to like have a will of their own. So now the sort of the suit of armor is having to play as human and sort of pretend that they know what fire was like as a person. Apparently, they now cover themselves in the suit of armor to sort of and have other people think like, oh, some horrible accident happened to them, and now they don't want to show their face because they've been disfigured. But the truth is that like that they're just dead, and now the suit of armor is having to pretend to sort of relearn who they are, or who fire was, and who they make their own personality now. And I guess they sort of bounce that off the protagonist and learn about themselves or about who fire was through training the younger character.
Do you know what kind of armor is like this
Yeah,
fire?
so I really based this character's design off of Lord Soth from Dungeons and Dragons, who's like a Death Knight. So
Mm-hmm.
very like Western, like full plate armor. Just has a little slit for the eyes, and they're big red burning eyes. And they have like a super long obsidian sword. Which I guess not super long, but yeah, it's like a cracked obsidian sword that they can like withdraw a blade of lava out of.
I'm looking at pictures now of Lord Soth and mm,
What do we think?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm,
Okay.
mm. Is there fan fiction of Lord Soth?
There's a whole fucking
Does,
novels about him.
does he yearn?
He earned a little bit too much, I think. He's from the Dragonlance novels. I don't remember all the fucking details because that was a long time ago. I skimmed through those.
Oh, the
I mostly
question
just
now
read
is
certain. What?
this fire yearn?
Yeah, yes, yes. So
Explain the yearn.
yes, I will get into the urn. Fire has multiple urns. And so again, this is like when fire was alive, they had a brother who was the concept of light. And they were besties, basically. You know, it makes sense. They'd go together. They both sort of were in love with the woman who was the concept of plants. Uh, Obviously, they didn't work out too well for fire. Though
Mm-hmm.
his and her romance was a bit more passionate than it was with her and White's. But after the accident, now he's kind of distant from her, and then so she just kind of naturally grew closer to White as sort of it makes sense for their relationship, but she still has lingering feelings for Fire, and he's uncertain about what to do with that because a dangerous sort of relationship to have.
Come
Plants don't want to get burned.
on. No.
And then he also had a sort of rivalry with the woman who's the concept of water, who is sort of newer to becoming that concept and inheriting her powers. And they had a like a on-off fling when Fire was alive, and then after his accident and death, now she is sort of angry with him because obviously she understands more than anyone that he's acting differently and is like not himself. And so they
Maybe
fight all the
water also
time.
yearns.
Yeah.
Oh, many yearnings in
Yeah.
this old story of
The
yours.
more I came back to it, the older I got, the more I realized that fuck the younger shonen protagonist. I don't need that. Like there was plenty going on with this character already. But yeah,
Yeah,
there
these
was quite a lot of
concepts.
interesting concepts for the concepts, I guess.
Yeah, may I know, like, how did you, like, the documents you're looking at, is this like Word files? Like, is this a story?
Yeah.
Is it drawings?
Yeah,
Word
they're like
file.
Word files. I mostly just put up documents for the individual characters. I never made a document for like overall plots because really I didn't have any. I didn't have any good plots that really stuck. Nothing lasting. Out of occasional ideas of like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, if this fight could happen, and then it'll lead to this, but they were all just like sort of disparate set pieces, I guess.
Have you shared this story to anyone on the internet? Like, was this posted on the internet before, or
Oh,
did this
never
just lead?
never posted, never even shared. I don't even think I told you before now, did I?
Yeah. Wow.
No.
Long buried
First
blorbos.
time long buried Borbos. I always felt ashamed because I never had like real names for them. They were
Mm-hmm.
just like story concept characters. But they were definitely my first Borbos. So
I think Fire is welcome to the bad boy orphanage.
yeah.
He can wear a Blorbo Club T-shirt over that armor.
It'd be
Welcome Fire to the club. Um, do you remember the next one? Was this like after this? Was it like Tumblr era now?
no, I had a lot more of these awful story ideas where I just wrote down the characters and never really put them together. Um
Mm.
each of those could kind of be their own little episode because I have a lot to talk about there.
So yeah,
Uh
you see, guys, when doctors make Blorbos, there really is a
yeah, they
multitude
really
of
make the
them.
Borbos.
Hmm. The next
Um
most one.
Next most notable one, the one that I guess one I came most close to ever like writing down a story for. It was a story concept that centered around the idea of like a intergalactic space station where representatives from every race would go to like become educated. So each race in the galaxy would send representatives from their species to go. And like study together at the university for like the most gifted students among all species. So then they can eventually become like future ambassadors. Very Mass Effect pilled in a way. I was playing Mass Effect at the time. Can you can you get that?
Mm. I didn't know
Yeah.
that you were a Mass Effect
Um,
player.
I was really into Mass Effect for a long time.
Mm.
Never even finished the second one though, and thank God for that.
Okay. Hmm.
And that concept had multiple like alien characters who were little Blorbos, and I tried really hard to make the alien characters really unique in terms of like their design and concepts. Of course, I was still pretty young. I didn't have any inclination to like commission people for art of these things, so I never got any art of them. And also, these characters
Hmm.
never really had names either. I could go through some of them.
Okay.
Um, the story was this was another story that was supposed to center around like a human teenage guy, but they were really just a blank slate. Maybe even like a self-insert, I guess, which is silly to think about. But you know, I was young. But I guess one of their like best friends in the setting was this sort of like snake-like alien, describing them sort of like a viperfish like type face, very flat, with their teeth and fingers were these big sort of silica cones, like sort of like icicle shaped, and they had very long arms and legs, so long that they sort of have to be tied into loops, to just like hold themselves up. So they just like have their arms tied up and crossed and their legs were sort of are wrapped together to be able
Okay, that's
to
pretty freaky.
yeah to be able to sort of move around in the heavier gravity. Their planet has a lot lighter gravity, so when they're on their planet, they're able to like let their long arms just kind of like wiggle out and float.
Hmm.
And they were like the prince of their race. They live in like a very small planet, and they're very. I guess just thinking of this character, not getting into the whole fucking alien species lore, because I had to come up with all that stuff. But this character was just like kind of very pompous and brash, and like from their perspective, they're like a incredible fighter and skilled athlete. But from all the other species perspectives, they seem kind of like flailing and silly and just kind of full of themselves.
Oh, you're like kind of loser in a way.
You're kind of a fail boy. Kind of a fail boy.
Hmm.
Yeah. I guess one of their strengths is like their theatrics and in a way their confidence in their own abilities, even though those abilities are not always apparent. I mean, again, it's hard to not think of things from like a human perspective, but I would try not to do that when I was thinking about alien characters. Like, how does the character think of themselves, not just like how a human would judge them? And one of the weapons they'd use in like traditional uh, displays of strength for their species was like this very long rapier that's kind of like an extension of their long arms. And to us, it just looks like a long ruler that's sort of been fully
Mm-hmm.
extended and just flops around. So it looks like completely useless. But in the right gravity settings and with the right wielder, they're like able to sort of whip it around very fluidly.
Do you have a name for these for this species?
I really didn't. I didn't even come up with the
Mm,
species name, sadly.
dang. Neat Mass Effect brand Blorbo though.
Yeah, there were other Blorbos that went with that setting, and they were all sort of designed around to be the different friends of the main protagonist. As part of the as part of the setting, like the all the people aboard the sort of intergalactic university have to do cultural exchanges. So once every year, like they have to visit Earth, and then the main human character has to visit their world. And so whenever they visit Earth, then they have to like be hidden and hide in like baggy clothes or something because Earth's government isn't ready to realize that there's aliens among us, and the main character would get in trouble. And then when the human character visits their planet, it's a whole different conundrum.
I see. How about Blorbo, the first Blorbo with a proper name? The first fleshed out
First fully fleshed
Blorbo.
out Blorbo. Probably my first Danganronpa on OC, isn't it?
Probably.
Yeah.
So it's like 2012-ish.
Let's see. I should be able to put up on my email and it'll tell me exactly how long that Tumblr account's been around for. It's a 10-year-old Tumblr account. So I made that Tumblr account in 2014.
Oh, okay.
What was that character's name? Ah, yes. So this was a Danganronpa OC Yuto Ikeda. They were super high school level emergency medical technician.
Now, why is there such resignation in your voice?
They were very much like a self-insert character,
Oh, we respect self-insert here. Come
very
on.
much.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you just
Now
look
you
at
are
them, like it's
them.
quite apparent.
Now you are
I'm a bit more than
them.
them. I'm more than an
Ugh.
EMT. I'm a fully fledged doctor. Yeah,
See? Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Look at that. Look at me go. Yeah, they were a fun character.
Do you remember the like? Did your Tumblr like roleplay group have a specific name?
Yeah, except that page is gone now.
Oh, but you don't
Oh
remember the name?
God, what was it called?
While you try to remember, can you like in Danganronpa, of course, like there's art, like fake
Oh, it was
sprites
from
of the character.
they were part of Doubt Academy 2, I think, or maybe the third iteration of that
Third
roleplay group.
installment. Okay.
It had multiple elements. I mean, I thought it was like one of the most popular Danganronpa OC groups at the time, but there's probably other people who's like, no, my Danganronpa OC group was the more popular one. And I don't know what you're talking about. Different corners of Tumblr existed, so I'm sure everyone's right in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
Within that group, this character was one of the masterminds. There were two for that particular setup.
They were a bad boy.
They were a bad boy, yes.
Oh, they
They were
were
a
a
bad boy.
bad boy. Okay. Okay.
Um,
Okay.
they were pretty unsuccessful, though. They died in the first execution.
Oh, damn it. Okay.
They were wrongfully accused, and then they got executed.
So you didn't even play him that long.
Yeah, not really. There's a whole setup where there's like a digital world sort of behind the real world where like characters who died had their consciousness uploaded into the computer and then they could continue to exist. And then in the end they did get resurrected, like all the characters who were killed could like come back in robot bodies
Mm-hmm.
and he would have a sort of misguided romance with the character whose death he was blamed for.
Oh, that's sad.
It was very sad. It was exclusively heartbreak after heartbreak.
The sprite for this character, the art for the character, how did you obtain it? Like, did you commission someone?
Yes, I had help with I believe that was one of my good friends who I still have contact with now, but who likes to keep their online presence very muted, so I will not mention their name, but they know
Mm-hmm.
who they are. They've
Okay.
also worked on Cuticorium and currently assisting with some parts of IODM, so they're still an artist I work with regularly. Someone I finally got to meet in person, which was very fun too.
Oh, very fun.
Yeah, I think you know this person though. You haven't met them in person either, but they're a good artist friend of
Oh,
mine, and so
I
we
see.
started our communication that way. And they helped me with some of the initial spriting for a lot of my Danganronpa OC characters.
I also know you have a second Danganronpa character.
I do. I have super high school level experiment Suki, who was like a tentacle armed girl. Played her a lot longer. I never played her in any groups. Had a lot more of a defined personality though.
Did the concept of this tentacle girl, like, did it come from your fascination with transformation? Or
Yeah,
did you
yeah.
just like, oh,
Fascination
okay.
with tentacles as well,
As we all
and
go through.
octopi. I was having an
Girls.
octopus phase at the time.
How was her design like inspired? How did you
It really wasn't very
create her?
inspired.
It wasn't
I always thought about redesigning her because she badly needed it.
girly needs a makeover.
Yeah, I guess I designed it as just like very simple and plain and like this is a character who doesn't want to stand out, which is kind of ironic given their weird features. And I guess most of the design was just thinking about like how to uh, work in their tentacle arms and have it not be cumbersome for their daily life. So like uses of zippers and
Mm-hmm.
easy to operate, easy to um, don and disrobe clothing that didn't involve like buttons or buckles. Yeah, stuff like that. So sort of like
Speaking, yeah, I just remembered. Remember, I don't know if we could count them as blorbos. I don't think they really had a personality. But do you remember the cheesecake OC?
I do.
I remember the cotton candy one I made to go
Yes,
with your cheesecake. Yeah, she needs a redesign. The color scheme for her was not that great, but I remember them fondly.
I remember I commissioned Mel for art of them, and I think Mel made art that was incredibly detailed, like
Hmm.
very high resolution art, which is so funny to me. Thinking back, I didn't really use them that much. No. Um, at the time, I
And
also had another Blorbo before I sort of got into like D&D era Blorbo making. I had a Fate Stay OC.
is this the mushroom girly?
No, no.
Oh, okay.
This was like a Fate Stay Master OC. For those of you
Mm.
who aren't caught up on Fate Stay Night lore,
Where
there's
have
like
you been?
yeah, where have you been? Somewhere safe, somewhere sound. Stay there. Um, but there's masters and servants, and masters are sort of humans who reign control of historic figures who have been reincarnated into the embodiments of their various heroic deeds and feats. And most people in that sort of section of Tumblr RP usually played the servants because it's way cooler to be like this super powerful um, figure from history, and you have all this lore like ready built for you to use. You get to use their myths and legends and all that stuff. My character was a master OC, so they were just a regular human. They were a magician, and their magic was all about sculpture carving. They had like a chisel in their hair and always carried a chisel around with them, and they could carve little golems and had various like stone making powers. But their powers were not especially explosive. They were more about like controlling ley lines and using their miniature golems to uh, have control over the land rather than like fighting anyone directly. So they were very much like a hermit and didn't want to have direct confrontations. I always played them very like analytical and cautious and a bit of a history nerd, which was helpful in that setting.
What's his
They were
character's
fun.
name?
I think it was Mushaya. You actually did art for them.
Mhm.
You were the first person to do their art.
I did? Oh, now I
Yeah,
will
you
try to
did.
remember.
You
Mm.
don't remember? Wow. Look at that.
Huh. Have I?
You have, let's see if I have it on hand. I think I do. If you give me just a second.
Okay.
Found it.
Maybe it will jog my memory. Oh, her. Her. I remember
In
her.
I also, in a way, this character's like the opposite of a self-insert. She's more of a wife insert, as you can see the
What?
resemblance.
Really?
Don't you think so?
I think I do. Wife insert.
Yeah, a novel concept.
Explain more. Explain more.
I just kind of designed her after your appearance.
I did not know. No, now I see. I see. You should bring her back.
I would love to. I would love any excuse to bring her back. I have a Fate Stay or Fate Grand Order inspired TTRPG game called Lost Orders. Is free to use, free to play. If you ever want to
Buy it. Buy
GM
it.
a game of
Buy it.
that, I
Buy
have
it.
a character. I have a. You don't even to buy it. You can just ask me. I'll give it to you. It's $4 though. It's pretty cheap and it's pretty good. And your art's in that too. But yeah, if you ever want to run a game of that,
Right.
I can bring this character, have them show up for some reason.
Look at me making icon art of a character. Look at
Did you
that.
make those icons? Did you make those
I did.
icons?
I did. I did.
Good. Oh yeah, you did.
Yeah.
You did.
I
There's
knew
some good
how.
ones. Yeah, you made heart eye icons. Those were your first in a long trend of heart eyes.
Yes, for free.
Yeah, and I had Mel made a little chibi too.
Oh my. Let's see it. Oh yeah.
I was very stingy with my commissions back then. I shouldn't have been. I
Mm,
was like, I can only afford chibi art. Well, I
now
probably
we
only
can
could have. I just had
afford
allowance to
Alvin and the
use.
Chipmunks iterations. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and then I guess that would bring us to like D&D era OCs, which I do have a lot of too. That's when I got a lot more into commissioning art of characters.
He was getting money already.
I was getting money. Actually, at this point, I don't think I was getting money. I was getting some money. Some money. I had various jobs during
Your trust
college and
fund
shit.
baby.
Shut up.
Okay.
No. Do we want to get into those characters or save that for another time? It's already gone pretty
Yeah,
late.
we have time. We have time. We
We
can
do? Okay.
do. Yeah, it's the last part. We can do the last part. This is part one. Part one of Doctor Duckler. Blorbo.
Excellent.
Mhm. Go ahead.
I'll hit you with at least one then. So
Any more bad boys? Any old men?
you just want to skip to the old men?
Oh no, like if you had any in this era.
I did have a bad boy. I did have a bad boy. Got him. Here's a bad boy character for you. This
Mm-hmm.
was Stoffel.
Oh, I
Um,
see.
in D&D, they're like a how do you say it? Yanti, like a snake person. Or no, that's incorrect. They're a were snake. They were a
Where's
were snake. I guess their backstory, and a lot of these characters are like alterable backstories to fit whatever campaign I was trying to put them in. But at least their backstory outside of that was they were a were snake who sort of fell in with Yanti, who are like these half reptile D&D race. They're, stereotypically evil. Um, and they kind of have like a mixed attitude towards were snakes, I think. Uh, but this dude used his bad
Mhm.
boy charm to sort of like seduce a Yanti princess. Um, but then when
Mm.
he realized that like actually marrying her would mean that he would kind of be like committed to living with them and not able to access like uh, human cities or kind of live freely. He was actually like, it's been hot, but time to ditch this and get out of here. So then they came after him to kill him for disrespecting the Yanti princess, something like that. So yeah, he's a heartbreaker.
He's Twinkie vibes, kind of.
Yeah, I was mostly making Twinks during this time. Sorry.
Are, are those shorts?
Yeah, sort of. They were
Oh,
designed so that he can transform into his half snake appearance without taking them off.
ah, you got the booty
So it's kind of
shorts.
like a little tube top, actually.
Oh, okay. And this art was also made, or
This
yeah,
was
who
this
made
art was
this
done by
art?
Mel. You're entering the
Mhm.
Mel era where I
In the middle
collaborated with
here,
Mel like exclusively.
from then
She
to
did.
present,
She
I
did pretty
fear.
much what from then to present. Yes, even now. She did all the art for my D&D OCs and does excellent art for them. Even now, if I ever want to do that again.
You remember if he's like, did he die in the campaign before? Like, what level is
I never
he?
really got the chance to use him in a campaign.
Oh,
I think maybe like half of a first session. A lot of my D&D characters had very short-lived existences in within campaigns. Yeah, I'd go through all the effort to like come up with a backstory and come up with this art. Mel went through the effort, but I had to commission the art and then never really used them for too much.
don't give them
Unfortunately,
to
that's just
waste.
yeah, I guess so. I don't know what to do with them now though. Maybe that's very utilitarian of me to think of characters as like having specific uses in that way, but that is kind of how I approach OCs even these days.
Maybe, like, don't you think since you were such a good Blorbo maker and you made all these Blorbos for D&D, did you ever realize that D&D isn't for you? Or do you consider yourself a D&D player?
Are you trying to
Like,
imply that there's another game I could play? Some sort of better game that would be more suited to role playing the type of adventures I wanted to have?
I think so. I think so.
There
Have you
could be.
heard
There
about
could
it?
be. I've heard
Yeah.
of a few. I've heard of a few.
Some
Yeah,
would say that you even wrote it.
I've written a few. I've written a few. You could say. You could say.
No, but
If you wanted
seriously,
to say
like, did
so.
you ever, did you ever think, or was there ever a time you thought like, hey, D&D isn't for me?
I continued to think that and think that even now. I mean, like I said, a lot of these characters did not last very long. Uh, That's sort of a reason why I consider myself to be a bad player. But I also sort of realized that I
Mhm.
was just bad at navigating the D&D system um, and the sort of rewards it has. I usually played characters who self-sabotaged a lot, who didn't have optimized builds,
Mhm.
who made choices that were based on their backstory and entirely flavor, and just would not function in with their intended purposes in combat, I guess. And D&D really is a combat game,
Mhm.
so I feel like a lot of the times there was conflict when my characters like didn't perform well in a combat setting, um, or would do stupid things because I thought that was like more fitting. It's like, oh, why didn't you finish off the last goblin? Well, she saw like a pretty flower, so she stopped and picked that up, and then they escaped. And then the other players would be like, "We're gonna fucking kill you." Maybe
I
fair.
guess
Maybe fair of them.
I guess with that, with that example, like, if it's nonsensical stuff, like she sees a flower, I guess if the other characters don't vibe with your character, then of course, like, they wouldn't make sense.
I usually played characters who are hard to vibe with, kind of like outliers.
Why?
They could be friendly, but they'd just be very odd. I liked playing
Because it's more
oddballs.
fun for you.
Yeah, it's more fun to play an oddball.
But also, is there like this is just D&D talk? It's the D and
I'm
D
just kidding.
portion
We've
of the
gone to
fun.
D&D talk.
But isn't
Skip
like there's
ahead
like
to.
Discord.
Mhm.
No, don't skip. Isn't there like discourse of like your character should also vibe with all the characters? Like, do you consider when building a D and D character or a D&D Blorbo, do you consider the characters of others?
No.
No. And why is that?
It is the job of the GM to ensure that the characters players wish to bring to the table can mesh together. A good GM can make it happen. A good GM can take characters who normally wouldn't work together and give them a reason why they have to. Some of those situations are more
Mhm.
long lasting than others. Sometimes what makes sense for characters to work together for like one mission wouldn't really make sense for them to work together for an entire campaign without some more contrived plot lines, I guess.
Isn't there also discourse about like the GM is also a player? So if it's their job to make all the characters vibe, what if they don't want to? Is that
Well,
like a good
I
argument?
don't think D&D really treats the GM like a player. Even though within role playing games as a whole, yes, I do think the GM is a player, and I try and reflect that in the games I make. I give the GM more of a role to play and more of a character to play, like
Really? Like
especially
the
especially in
discourse?
Island of Dr. Moreau. If you play that one, the
Like
discourse.
the discourse that the people are saying like, oh, like the GM's also the player, that came from D&D people. So within the context of
I think that's
D&D,
the cognitive dissonance of them not
uh,
accepting that the GM is supposed to be a character in TTRPGs, but D&D does not support that. So they can't accept. It's like, oh, but D&D is also the best game, but it doesn't function correctly. So that
I
they cannot
see.
hold both those in their minds, so they go insane.
I see. I
Yeah.
see. Hmm. It's the D&D
That's the
portion
root problem of
of the
most D&D players, most D&D drama or yeah, the discourse is usually just that they realize something is important, but D&D doesn't really support it. But D&D is the only thing they play. So how do they triangulate that position
mm,
to both
D&D.
continue to support D&D, but also realize that they are missing this essential element? Usually it comes
Yeah.
down to the like, oh, just homebrew it, or that's what I did,
Mm-hmm.
or like I didn't
You're a
use those
homebrewer.
rules, so they just ignore part of the system they support. Fine,
I see. I see. Hence, that is why we have no respect for D&D. Kind of, sort of. Do we respect D&D?
not really, no.
You know, it is unfortunately like the very popular TTRPG like groups played here in the Philippines. So I kind of gotta work with what I have and pray that the GM is a good GM.
It do be like that sometimes.
Hmm. But in the vein of Blorbo making still, you have a TTRPG, one of the TTRPGs you have out called To
Mhm.
Change. Um, can you tell me more about like when we or like when I played tested for it or when I played one shot and the way I make a Blorbo or all the players make Blorbos is based on the tarot cards, like their face, rising,
Yes,
falling. Can
you
you tell me
used.
more about that? Like in the realm of Blorbo making, like what made you decide that would be the system to go with for the game?
So two change isn't very Borbo based, you could say. I more base it around the sort of archetypal characters who I see appear in TF stories. And those characters sort of have a few strong aspects to them. Um, and that's enough. That's just enough to make them function in the stories. That's all they need.
How contradictory, because my Blorbos came from that system, as you
Indeed.
know very well.
I think your Blorbos came from a slightly different system. Your Blorbos coming from the Island of Dr. Moreau system, correct?
I love how IODM is just mentioned every episode.
It's
From
that
episode
good.
one.
That
So
good,
yeah,
folks.
it
Check it
is.
out
So, yeah,
once it's out.
check it out. Out. I'll put the Kickstarter
Once it's
link
released.
below, even. Yeah.
Yay. Um, I think IODM is especially good at forging Blorbos by Blorbo proximity. Maybe this can become a theory later, but
Proximity?
you didn't really come up with that much for your character at first, did you, for Rose? Like, there wasn't
No.
that to your backstory, right?
Yeah. Not
But
much.
because IODM gives you so many other Blorbos to sort of bounce off of, you quickly develop your Blorbo at a frightening pace.
Truly, truly. Yeah, session 5, Rose wasn't into bad boys. Session 6, he's
Yeah.
raw dogging it with a
Yeah,
bad boy, you know?
IODM is pretty much made of Blorbos, and so whatever Blorbo concept you insert into the Blorbo mixer will quickly become polished like a gem by bouncing off these other Blorbos.
Blorbo gem. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
I think
theory of a Blorbo singularity.
that is truly the gift of the Gaia role playing group. The concept
Ultimately,
of
yeah,
an island full of Blorbos, even
ultimately,
the
the
whole island.
Gaia role playing group was just a bunch of people as Blorbos, and even the doctors who were in charge were also Blorbos, as I'm sure you'll talk with Arania about.
In a future episode, hopefully. Hmm.
Oops, I might just spoiled a future guest. Sorry.
Oh no. I mean, don't
I
jinx it.
think I think most of your guests come through me.
I know you're
So
like my PR.
hey
You're my
everyone,
PR person.
past and
Yes.
future guests.
Yeah. Wait, what are you gonna tell them?
Just it's nice to be here.
Yes, hello. He is my
You'll
PR
enjoy it,
manager.
and if you haven't already, yeah,
Yeah, come on. Bring your
don't
Blorbos
don't
in.
fight don't fight the Borbos.
Make them old men. Come on.
Don't succumb to Bianca's whims either. You don't have to have bad boy old men Borbos to be here. Your other Borbos are just fine and accepted.
Fine, fine. Yes, yes. All Blorbos are welcome to the club.
Very good.
To close out part 1 of your segment, are there any other notable Blorbos or any Blorbo making discourse you want to bring up?
Mm, I don't particularly have any Blorbos to promote. I could think of a few other older ones, like ones that related to those formless sort of stories I had in my mind. You know, the characters without names, I guess. But for another time, I guess. And then there are lots more D&D Blorbos to get into. And
Oh,
then maybe
oh,
some modern Blorbos.
I have an interesting question to cap this off.
Mm, please.
Of all your Blorbos, which design is your favorite? Like the visual design. Which one's your favorite one?
Oh, that's really good. It's hard to top Mushia's design because, like I said, life insert, difficult to top.
Wait, did you share a drawing?
Yeah, the one you did.
Oh, that's her.
Yeah.
That's her. Oh, I mean her. I kind of ate with the
Also,
hair
you
and the
you drew her art, so how can I say it wasn't well designed when you helped? Mm.
yippee. Mwah.
Other designs that I like that I'm really proud of. Mm,
We gotta see Art of
I am
Fire. If I will make it if I
maybe I'll
have
get
to.
Mel. I'll get Mel to commission that or something, or I'll work with you to make it. I really do like
Mhm.
this Batgirl Blorbo who I had. Another D&D one.
Oh
The first
yeah,
D&D one I
I
made.
know her. I know her.
Horribly over designed. Uh, but it kind of worked because her whole concept was being like a um what's the word? Chuniboyo or Chuni? It's like
When you build.
yeah, like middle schooler who thinks they have supernatural powers and super epic
Mm,
and cringe.
I
Her whole
see.
design is based
I
around her being cringe.
okay. Those are the
Yeah,
best character designs. I fear.
very much. I didn't really get to do much with her at all, which feels bad. But there's so much going on with that concept. I mean, just look at that pose.
Look at that. Look at that art.
For
Great
those who
art.
can't see, it's a bat person who's holding one hand up or one leg up to like do a very sort of like suave.
Sun.
Yeah. No, they're sort of like hiding their cursed eye with one of their legs.
I see.
And they have a little
They
leaf
remind
eye
me of a
patch.
Toho. Remind me of a Toho character.
Very Toho
Toho
inspired
vibe.
designs. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Mhm.
And Toho designs are peak, so I was on something clearly. Zun, make it back,
Yeah.
girl.
Please, Sun. Hear our
Zun, if you're
prayer.
listening, make it back, yokai.
Mhm.
Well, it's
Okay,
been a
I think
pleasure.
yeah, that's all for part one. Out of five,
When can viewers expect
I
part
fear.
two?
We come back for we have four more parts.
When
Counting
can
this one,
viewers
five.
watch out for part
Yeah,
two and avoid it?
yeah. So no, I need the views. Don't say
Okay.
that.
Okay. Don't avoid
Yes,
it.
yeah. Please come back. And if you have any Blorbos you want to share, please message me. We are in dire need of Blorbo makers. The Blorbo population is dwindling.
This will affect the Borbo population.
Yes, I think you should say farewell to our listeners while we
Bye.
talk privately
Bye,
in another
everyone.
room.
Okay. We're just gonna walk in another room holding hands. Nothing to
Yes.
see here.